The allegations are that Clearview stole your pictures without your consent and without the consent of the websites you put them on. Now they are being used in this biometric database by the police and others with wrongful arrests. Hey, if you want to hear the whole show or an older show, you can find them. Just go online to craigpeterson.com. You'll see the podcasts there. I podcast the whole radio show, as well as my appearances on radio and television right there, so you can listen to them as podcasts there or on your favorite podcast app. There you go. So we were talking about Clearview using these images that were scraped from the internet illegally, in some cases, against obvious usage agreements as well. Now is that they've got this biometric database of the images. And they can use that database to match an image of one person to one of these pre-existing images that has been analyzed and scanned and maybe stolen, right? Depending on how you want to look at it. The allegations are all the way across the board. Now, neither you nor anybody else whose image was scraped from the internet even know that it happened, let alone give Clearview permission to use your image, right? They didn't get permission to take it, and they're not going to get permission to use it. So the details of these practices are not well received by anybody out there. Even the New York Times came out about it last January, which is when I really started talking about it as well. Within 3 days of the New York Times talking about what this Clearview company did, there was a federal class action suit that was filed. And the complaint opened with a quote from Justice Brandes that the greatest dangers to liberty lurk in insidious encroachment by men of zeal, well-meaning, but without understanding. So it's very interesting. There's a whole bunch of cases. I'm looking at the list of them right now. These will take a while before everything is finalized on them. But here's something we absolutely do know for a fact. And that is that there have been arrests that have been made due to this database. Anyone who identifies as a policeman can go ahead and download the app onto their iPhone or other device and can then just take a picture of someone casually on the street. There are people who are making police cameras that are constantly streaming video and on the back end are trying to do facial recognition. I've had a couple of them on my radio show a few years back. And it's cool because it gives the policeman an idea of, is this a bad guy or not? Or is this somebody who we should trust, somebody we could trust? I'm not really that worried about it. Just think about the most dangerous thing most police officers do, which is a traffic stop. They have no idea who's in the car, if that person's going to try and attack them, etc. So having a live stream, thinking about RoboCop, which didn't end that well, and what was happening there with the Ed 209s as well as RoboCop himself, being able to see a person and be able to tell right away what this person's background is, if there's any wants or warrants, etc. out there. That's all well and good to a certain degree, but we just had another man, this is a New Jersey man, who was accused of shoplifting and trying to hit a police officer with a car. He was wrongfully arrested based on facial recognition. Now, in this case, it's a black man, and these facial recognition software programs that are available tend to do poorly with any minority, frankly, or do terribly with some, and do poorly with any of them, and also do rather poorly with good old regular Caucasian faces like mine. Okay, so this is a third person who's arrested for a crime he did not commit. He spent 10 days in jail and paid around $5,000 to defend himself. So this is a guy that had nothing to do with it. The police got lazy. They said, oh, we got a facial recognition match. It's this guy, because they ran it through some software that had scraped some photos from the internet. You see where I'm going with this. And those photos from the internet say it's probably this guy, Niger Parks. And we know his social media is saying it's Niger Parks. This is where he lives. This is where he posts most of his fit pictures. Because remember, our pictures, when we take them with our smartphones, have embedded GPS information. Oh my gosh. And in this particular case, he was apparently 30 miles away from the scene of the crime. Okay. Pretty sad. They dismissed the case because of lack of evidence. Isn't that wonderful? But the police department is now getting sued along with the prosecutor in the city of Woodbridge for false arrest, false imprisonment, and violation of his civil rights. I think he should absolutely win on that. 2019, and this is an article that came from the New York Times, they're saying a national study of over 100 facial recognition algorithms found that they didn't work as well on Black and Asian faces, as I said a little bit earlier. An ACLU attorney named Wessler believes that police should stop using facial recognition technology. I am okay with it to a degree. I don't think you should be issuing any sort of an arrest warrant based on facial recognition. I think you might get a clue from that, and from that clue, you can look at the faces and decide for yourself and interview the suspect, do some good old-fashioned police work, but this facial recognition, arresting people, putting them in jail, and then costing them thousands of dollars plus their time and their reputation, and what it does to your nerves and everything else is just absolutely insane. Bad arrests. So this article in the New York Times goes through what happened. Apparently, the officers had been presented with a fraudulent driver's license. One of the officers reported that they saw a big bag of suspected marijuana in the man's pocket. They tried to handcuff him, and that's when he ran. He had a rental car. It goes on, but it was a problem. And even though Mr. Parks had been arrested twice and incarcerated for selling drugs, released back in 2016, doesn't mean that he's the guy that did all of this. So let's be careful. I'm not fond of what Clearview has done, obviously, just based on how I described it and who I quoted. And I don't like the idea of using this facial recognition technology to arrest people, bottom line. So speaking about arresting people, when we get back, we're going to talk about what are called swatting attacks. I don't know if you've heard of these before. They're pretty common, unfortunately. And some of the technology that we've been bringing into our homes to keep us safer are now being used to put our lives in danger, if you can believe that. Yeah, absolutely true. We'll be talking about that. You can also follow me online. Just go to craigpeterson.com. You can subscribe for my newsletter. I'm not an active poster in Facebook or anywhere else, so the newsletter is the best place to get my weekly show summaries.